Welcome into 321 Presents. Of course, I'm on mic 1. My name is Zach. Along with me on mic 2, I have Nick.
Howdy, howdy.
And what an interesting week this has been. And of course, I have no trap set for this week, unfortunately. Assume there's no traps over there. So we just get to have a fun little discussion, discuss all the things around the world, sports, movies, media, you name it. We talk about it here. Top of the hour, so let's talk about sports to begin, because why not?
Yeah, of course.
Big week here in Denver. We have, of course, our Denver Broncos going up against the Buffalo Bills for the divisional round of the playoffs.
The outcome we both wanted very much.
Yeah. For the most part, our predictions from last week, about batting 50%. Not bad, though.
I think I took the edge with the 49ers pick.
Yeah, that one was...
And then otherwise, we were pretty lockstep.
Yeah, a little ridiculous. Unfortunately, we have some more openings, coaches' openings, as people have stepped away. Mike Tomlin has stepped away. Of course, we knew Harbaugh stepped away.
And then has already been hired by the Giants.
They're working on final details from what we heard.
That seems pretty done deal from everything I've seen.
Yeah, but exciting times over there in New York. Got a new quarterback, got a crazy running back and a new coach, and you already had a wide receiver, and your defense has been pretty okay. So things looking good over there. But they get to sit outside the playoffs and watch us take on their home state rivals and the only team in New York that plays football, the Bills, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, not ideal, but we do get to make Josh Allen go on the road and not have to go into Buffalo this time.
It is, and unfortunately for us, it is going to be a cold game too, one of our first ones of the season.
Interesting. That is breaking the trend of 60-degree December and January games so far.
Yeah, Josh has a voodoo on the weather. It's about to feel like Buffalo out here. Well, not quite, because not a big old snowstorm, but it is going to be windy and cold.
Interesting. Don't like the wind forecast. We don't... I mean, your high altitude is supposed to be a kicker's paradise. We don't need to be messing that up with wind trajectories and whatnot.
Yep, so may the odds be ever in the Broncos' favor this week. Buffalo, of course, we know has more experience coming into this with Josh Allen and having gone to the AFC Championship. This is going to be potentially his fourth time in a row.
He's going to be,
times.
Yeah, fourth time he's going to try and get there. If they don't make it, it will be very much a question of how much longer can they keep this competitive window open, I feel like.
A little bit. I mean, they have a lot more time than what seems to be the crumblings of the Chief Kingdom. Something about Rome's built in a day or not built in a day and some things.
I don't think that franchise gets to complain. They pulled 3 trophies out of that run, and it was very good. You know, the highs, you enjoy them while you can. They're not going to last forever. Nothing does. No,
but they've unfortunately had some low lows, and potentially maybe Kelsey's last year. Who knows? Only him and his future wife.
We'll see how motivated he is for another season after he marries his billionaire pop star wife.
Him and Jason seem to be having a good time just out there podcasting, being social media darlings for the most part. Jason Kelsey's had
he is very
all his
much
side quests
enjoyed.
Are crazy.
Yeah, he has very much enjoyed being retired. I feel like that's a very enticing argument for Travis to join Big Bro.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about the Kelseys is they are a competitive family. They do like to thrive on that, but if you can just
both have their trophies.
Yeah, you can just chill, hang out, make a lot of money. No one's gonna complain about that.
What else could Kelsey just be trying to set like the all-time tight end records? And that
he has a lot of them, or he's not gonna get close enough.
He has all. Because he's passed Tony Gonzalez for most of the Chiefs ones already, which is crazy. It would take some 2 or 3 dedicated more years, I think, to top all of the Gronk records.
Yeah, that's psycho. For the Broncos, though, this is an exciting week. Why? Because only one quarterback drafted by the Denver Broncos has a playoff win, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, and potentially Bo Nix might be able to join that list.
Hey, wait, who's the other one? Greasy?
Nope, I don't think he has a playoff win. I think it's Osweiler, in fact, actually.
Hey, that's a funny tidbit of recent. I would not have gotten to Osweiler in a million years.
Yeah. But big exciting news for the young kid and his very wordsy head coach whose play calls are madly ridiculous as we keep going through the social media of this week.
We do have a little bit of a white bread offense in terms of like social media presence and whatnot. Bo and Sean Payton are not the It's a very like white bread with mayonnaise sort of interview you get with those two. And there's no frills or whatnot, but it's right down the middle with them.
Just about business.
Yeah, and I definitely am excited to see what Sean Payton cooks up. He knows how to call some wrinkles into, like, we talk about it a lot throughout the season about not showing all your good plays, keeping some stuff in reserve, and now I think we're going to start to see some of that secret sauce in terms of play calling. Remember, this is the man who pulled out the onside kick to start a Super Bowl.
I can never forget unfact.
Yeah. Fun fact there. So yeah, we know he's got that a little bit of trickery and whatnot in hand. And I think that is the biggest question about this game is the offense. Is Bo going to step up to the moment? Will the receivers, can Cortland prove he's a number one guy, be reliable in the clutch down the line of all those question marks? How's the running game going to look? Because I think by and large, we all are anticipating the defense to pretty much just lock it down on their side.
Yeah, that would be the hopes. And the Buffalo Bills defense, not as good as ours, but our offenses this year have been comparable-ish because they had a terrible start and kind of picked it up there towards the end, which is not ideal for us, however.
And our track record is that it takes us a while to get going. So if it's not like a first drive touchdown tomorrow, that's going to be worrisome way to start.
If we can slow them down and pick up our pace, I think we'll be all right. Opposite us, though, on our beloved Saturday, that the NFL decided to take over because there is no more NCAA. Well, there is NCAA football, but it's played during the week these days. 49ers will take on the Seahawks in a division rivalry match. So that'll be exciting. 49ers, as you just said, just kind of snuck in there by the skin of their teeth. And on the opposite side, the Seahawks taking on the ride of the Pope because new Pope. Seahawks are always very, very good. Sam Darnold's just kind of enjoying his time.
This has been a crazy turnaround year for Sam Darnold because if we remember at this point last year when we were talking about him choking two of his biggest career games ever.
Crumbles.
An absolute, disaster. I feel like that's got to be looming in his head a little bit coming into this one. Certainly the 49ers defense are going to know that try and get in his head.
The 49ers, one's just getting in by the skin of their teeth, and two, they lost Kittle, who's going to be out for a whole year because he just tore his ACL, which is a little bit of a gut punch because that is a little bit of your heart and soul on the team.
Yeah, that's very much a not only a blow to the roster, but to team morale, to the locker room environment. The full organization is hurt by that one.
Yes, and while we're here, the crazy thing is there's been a look into the 49ers franchise. Why? Because they have the most injuries of any football team. And why is this interesting? Because their practice facility is right next to an energy plant, essentially, which people have looked into studies, and EMF signals and things of that do degrade your muscles a little bit more than the rest. And they have suffered the most ACL major injuries than anyone in the past, I don't know, however long Levi's been open now.
That's an interesting thing because that is a very, you got to adjust for variables across other locations around, but that's pretty solid data set to work from for years and years of. That's very interesting to look into. Yeah, I mean, you don't like to get into the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat territory.
I don't know if this is conspiracy theory tinfoil hat.
Because the data's there.
The data is there, and people have reached out to their agents.
As long as we're not blaming it on the 5Gs.
I can't not say it's the 5Gs.
One of the Gs amongst the five. Well, that's not to say all 5Gs are bad.
Yeah, who's to say? But all the 49ers, from what I've heard, at least a few of the 49ers have reached out to their agents, and they potentially may force them to move their practice facility so they could be healthy.
I mean, it's organized with the Players Association, that seems like a pretty, present the numbers, and you have a pretty slam dunk legal case, I would think.
One would think, but also it's like, you're telling me because we are over here by a power plant, you're hurting more?
It's definitely rough. I mean, hard to try and make ownership do a big real estate project like that. It took us getting brand new owners to get a new practice facility underway, although ours wasn't causing major injury or anything.
No. Sunday's matchups, Those ones are going to be a little bit more interesting. The Texans take on the Patriots. Texans coming off a huge playoff win. Patriots, nothing to sneeze at either.
Patriots have had a under the radar good year. I mean, kind of proving everybody wrong every step of the way. They've met every challenge. Texans, really kind of kicked the crap out of the Steelers last week.
Yeah, just an overall shellacking so bad that it made Mike Tomlin reconsider his career as an NFL coach, at least for the Steelers.
Well, no, I'm pretty certain the rumblings on Tomlin are he's going to try out that cushy media life.
Yes, because the Steelers still own his contract, very much like the New Orleans Saints did
for Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
Yeah. And hey, you might get your franchise a little draft pick compensation here or there or something if someone wants to poach you away next year, but otherwise enjoy not having to do a coach's timeline week to week during the season. And
that's gonna be such a hard thing because he's been doing this for over 20 years and
he's 19
years as a head and then a bunch as an assistant.
Yeah.
To adjust your schedule to not be on that timeline.
I don't know. It's pretty good sometimes to just be able to turn the alarm clock off. But the wild that did you know that when the Steelers get their next head coach, he will be the fourth coach in team history?
Yeah, they have not had very many.
That's insane.
They are a very loyal franchise over there for sure. And for the most part, when you are no longer the Steelers coach, you don't really coach anywhere else. So this would kind of also be a first for them if that does ever happen.
Tomlin would be very much following in Bill Cowher's footsteps, who stepped away and has been on TV ever since.
Enjoying his life.
Yeah.
Opposite them in the NFC, somehow the NFC got both primetime evening games. They will be the Rams, who also just barely snuck in, against the Bears, who also just barely snuck in.
Yeah, a little old underdogs versus new underdogs.
The Bears, kind of like we said, they really waited to finish that one off.
That's one of those, it's going to go etched down in franchise history in Chicago for that playoff win. They're going to remember that one like the drive out there. That was a very impressive playoff win. You get them, you take them any way you can get them, whether they're pretty or not. And knowing that your young guy can pull that out in the playoffs is a huge boost of confidence to that franchise, I would say.
Yeah, he turns fourth quarter. Caleb Williams is not the same as the first three quarters, very similar to someone here who we know in the Denver area.
Yes.
But the young guys, for the most part, Drake May, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Jaden McDaniels when healthy, all proven to be a little bit of a star power for that new generation of quarterback.
And this is the little microcosm. It's Caleb Williams versus Matt Stafford in the QB duel. Stafford, who we kind of know is on the back end of his, probably safe to say, past his prime.
That's it. He's MVP favorite.
I don't doubt it. I mean, Peyton pulled in one or two at the end of his line too, but you know that you're much closer to the end of the road than you were at the beginning. And as a whole, the Rams are just that kind of core has been there since that Super Bowl run, which was already 3 years ago now? 4?
Yeah, 4 years ago. It's been a long time. We've had a lot of Chiefs 49er matchups and the Eagles doing some things.
I've totally forgotten until I saw a clip of his podcast this week that Vaughn played for the Bills too.
He did. He went from the Rams to go get a Super Bowl to the Bills to try to get another. Did not.
Nearly did. Pretty close, but yeah, not quite.
Yeah, salute to Vaughn. I do believe he said he's calling it quits after the year he had in Washington.
No, he said he wants to come back to Denver if he can. If they can find him a roster spot, he said he'll come back for any dollar amount.
Sure.
Finding the roster spot is a little bit of the trick, and it'll probably be a different defensive coordinator potentially next year.
That would be interesting for us because, one, if Vance Joseph does go, the Wayne or Art Rooney rule, we get compensated for him being coach of color.
Interesting. I mean, we'll take it.
Indeed.
But Vaughn did definitely pick the Broncos to win this
We're
one.
going to see him eventually sometime down the line because I assume he will come back here to make his official retirement.
He'll definitely retire as a Bronco, but whether that's a one day or if he actually does get a year to be a locker room guy, a on-the-field coach sort of thing.
Yeah. Very much. I do believe that is all the football news. Anywhere else you want to talk about in the sports realm?
Quick little note from the baseball world that I found kind of interesting this week. The St. Louis Cardinals finally traded Nolan Arenado off of his very big contract that was originally the one we signed him to. He is back in the NL West, but not for us. He is now an Arizona Diamondback, which is such a weird compromise for, because he's been very adamant like about wanting to be back in California.
He's California adjacent.
Although I will grant him that if your options were the Los Angeles Angels or the Diamondbacks, you take the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I can't imagine the Padres are willing.
Padres don't have the money.
Yeah, they don't have the money. Nor
Giants
are
are
they
rebuilding. They don't want an old man contract. And the Dodgers just spent another $126 million on the best free agent in the class.
Where is my cap?
Does not exist, and it will not exist if the players have anything to say about it.
No. It must exist from what we've learned about the championships.
I mean, we'll see. Or else the Dodgers ownership conglomerate will just keep mortgaging trophies now for payments in the future.
How long can it last?
We'll see how many World Series it makes to not make the Dodgers fans care.
It should be there should be some sort of punishment.
There's probably going to be like a decade per trophy hangover once this era is done. With the Dodgers are going to go into a hard slump after, just the rest of the league catches up to whatever they're up to now.
Yeah, especially if they're not going to be able to spend the money again.
Their times are coming, but they're riding high on the hog right now. Other news, no, it's been a pretty quiet week in the hockey world, other than we've gotten a lot more footage of the construction site that is the Olympic hockey rink.
I've not heard very good things about anything going on out there.
The very first test event had to be canceled in the middle of its run because the ice was in such poor condition. They did get more successful test events in over the weekend, but it is a laughably bad setup out there. The space between the blue lines is kind of where they lost the space on the ice, because when you're doing the lines, they're very particular about from outer edge out. So the blue, the actual zones themselves are regulation size, and then it's about 2 strides for Nathan MacKinnon between blue lines.
That's crazy.
Him and McDavid are going to be running an absolute...
That'd be so annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
There is no room for neutral zone defending at this rink. And it is a jumbotron, quote unquote, that is probably... There are definitely American households that have larger
TVs inside.
Yeah, home theater setups than what they're rocking out there in Italy.
Hey, that's big a TV.
The players are like, we literally can't see the time up there.
Just wait till the horn goes, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. Which also reminds me of a funny news story out of the hockey world that is very inconsequential, but our nearby neighbors, the Utah Mammoth, who
Ooh.
I don't think we actually covered, are hosting the next Winter Classic next year, and we are going to be their opponent for that, but it's going to be out in Utah.
Where ice is better,
theoretically.
Not in freaking Nevada.
It's going to be in a football stadium for this one, so we're not going to be out on the lake.
I assume they're going to steal Utah's football stadium, the college.
Probably. So that's happening, but the players for Utah had to, in their post-game interviews this week, ask their fans to stop the new little ritual that they have adopted in the Delta Center out there, where one fan whistles really loudly, and then the rest of the fan group whistles back at them in a loud chorus of whistling. So it sounds like a bunch of birds are loose in there or something. Unfortunately, let
the fans have their fun, Utah.
It all sounds like fun and games. Unfortunately, as we know from Patrick Waugh's time as a coach behind the bench, that is also the kind of default signal in hockey for a line change, is a sharp whistling sound.
Oh, no.
So it's, kind of like... I don't know what the other sports equivalent would be. It's like taking...
There is nothing like a line change.
Yeah, there really isn't. And there's no other,
There's no sport that is a problem.
It's basically the equivalent of bringing a referee whistle in and blowing it a bunch all at once as a group.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have the noisemakers. There's no more vuvuzelas anywhere in the...
No. So, yeah,
fandom.
The players had to be like, the whistling is actually kind of loud and bothersome, and so if it could be something else, that'd be good.
Also, from what I've known from the human experience, when you tell somebody to
not
do something,
Yeah.
it makes them want to do it even more, unfortunately. So good old Utah gets to kick out some fans for Whistling. I'm so excited.
We'll see how much longer that lasts, but that is the biggest news out in hockey land. Our Avs have had actually one of their longest stretches of downtime this week. Only one game I can report on, which was an overtime loss to the Maple Leafs, which very upsetting because we did have a power play with 2 minutes and change in the third period that we could have put the game away with, and instead it went to overtime and we were sloppy. But that overtime win, the Leafs celebrated like they had won a playoff game or something. They're like, yes, we took down the number one team in the league, and then went over to Utah the next night and got spanked 6-1.
Because that was going to be the highs.
So then everyone on the Reddit was throwing out Thanos memes for all that for a drop of blood.
Fair enough. Over in roundball territory, the Denver Nuggets are doing something special. They are, for the most part, competing and winning most of their games without Nikola Jokic in the lineup. Very, very scary for everyone else around the league, because if these teams cannot beat them, granted, we are, like I said, the right time to miss with January. It's a little bit more cushy.
A little fortunate in the scheduling of like which games Jokic is going to miss. We're on like a pretty large Eastern team stretch here. Because I did see, someone pointed out like every other playoff contender in the West is probably like, why are we all killing each other right now? And the Nuggets get to go beat up on the East.
It's just the way it all worked out. And then I am so happy and fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Nuggets did lose one game pretty horrendously because there was no Jamal Murray, there was no Nikola Jokic, there was no Aaron Gordon. I think P-Watt did participate in that game with Christian Braun and Jalen Pickett, and it did not go particularly well.
Yeah.
The bench, as we know, was fairly deep, but when your already deep bench is having to start and you have your man on a two-way contract out there starting, what more can you possibly do?
And every once in a while you run into another team who's got their A game, and there's no shame in that.
Nope, no shame in that at all. But for the most part, Denver Nuggets have found their way back tied for second in the West. Of course, OKC is still holding on tight with only 7 losses to their name thus far. They have been a little bit more on the struggle bus, at least in this past 10.
Yeah, they've at least proven to be mortal. We're not worrying about them setting any all-time records or anything now.
Correct. San Antonio being a little bit more of a problem. They have learned that Wemby is a little bit of an alien.
They made him too aerodynamic now. They shaved his head.
Him and Keldon Johnson did shave their heads because they felt like they needed to lock in after going 5-5 for their last 10, which is... Wemby is such a weird and interesting guy. He's the dude in the locker room who just wants to read the book. He went out and studied with monks during his off season.
Yeah, he's French.
Yeah, I don't know what he is.
French by default is already going to be kind of weird to American standards, and then he's a weird French guy.
Sure. Of course, Minnesota is chomping on our heels as they always do. The Lakers have found their way into non-play-in contention, which they've had a little bit of a rough go. They've decided that maybe we don't want to play defense and maybe work so hard all the time, coach. And JJ's not enjoying life out there all the time.
I was going to say, I don't think JJ would be a big fan of that particular strategy, but what do I know?
Nope. He is not. He is, in fact, very stressed out, and the social media out there, not in the press out there, not helping his case any at all. Of course, rounding out our top 6 is Houston right behind them, who've also slipped a little bit, trying to figure things out over there. On the East, Detroit is still holding on tight. Boston somehow finds their way in second place, and New York ends up in third. Shockingly, Toronto and Philly in that 4 and 5 spot, and Orlando bringing up the rear at 6, with Cleveland peaking just on the outside, and Miami right behind them. I do believe that is all the round ball news that we have for you, but there has been an interesting question I've seen passed, mostly because in the NBA, we're getting closer and closer to trade deadline. I do believe it's the same for the NHL. So there are lots of rumblings about players going into finding different places. Trae Young has already been moved out of Atlanta because he asked for it, and they have not been treating him so well. Ja Morant has been very disgruntled from all reports out there in Memphis and may find a new home. But there's been this question that I've seen, and even relates to a trade that we've done this past offseason with our beloved Michael Porter Jr., who may find himself somewhere else with the play he's done thus far, potentially Golden State, which would be horrendous for everyone involved.
That would be a wild turn of events.
Yeah, I want him just to stay in Brooklyn, maybe suffer just for a little bit longer, just for my pleasure.
Seems unlikely, but we'll see.
And of course, the Kuminga out in Golden State has been disgruntled since this offseason, where he said, "Give me the bag," and they said, No. But in the NBA, the question was asked, who was or what has been the worst trade of the team overall, which led me to the thought and idea is nature versus nurture inside of sports, of course.
Oh boy, philosophy.
We love, hey, it's all about philosophy. I'm a philosophy kind of guy. Of course, the Denver Nuggets, their worst trade, according to Bleacher Report, was giving up Donovan Mitchell for Trey Lyles, and essentially I think it was like another first round or a second round pick. Was not a lot of bang for our buck at the time.
How long ago was that?
That would have been 8 or 9 years ago, I do believe.
Okay.
Problem was, at the time, we already had Jamal Murray, we had Emmanuel Mudiay, we had Gary Harris, we had Will Barton, we had all these guards. There was no place for him to thrive, and Donovan Mitchell, as we know today, superstar in the NBA. He was a huge star out in Utah until they decided that, and he decided that he no longer wanted to be there, and is a megastar out there in Cleveland. But would he have been the same player had he come here? Which is why I'm going to say probably not.
Yeah.
I think nature versus nurture is a thing that exists in sports, and we've seen it, especially in the NFL, for a lot of the quarterbacks who are bust. And we're seeing a lot of very good examples in this new age era where Daniel Jones goes and finds success, where there's a good established team. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, all these highly touted quarterbacks that have been labeled as a bust, but we're not set up for success.
Yeah, have with second chances proven that there is more than was seen in the first attempt at doing the thing. Yeah, 100%. I do think that we are in an era where, if we're going by the sports and the metrics of success there, yeah, the nurture side of the argument is winning pretty hard. That it is not a inborn base and or like maximum level of potential that players have, and that it will present itself no matter what in any situation. That it is very much environmental, and that, you know, players with the potential for greatness can maybe not achieve it under non-ideal conditions, and people who maybe players who didn't necessarily maybe get scouted as having top-tier potential suddenly discover that there is more to their game with the proper environment around them.
Yeah, and I think there is a very, very rare player out there, the likes of your LeBron James, your Michael Jordans in the NBA, your Peyton Mannings, Tom Brady's in the NFL, your Nathan McKinnons, your Wayne Gretzky's, who are at such a level that they'll find success no matter what or where they are or what the condition is. But for the most part, and then your this is an alien type of person, your super mega ultra star who you're going to put the whole league on the back of, you need some sort of good conditions to strive as a player. I mean, arguments you can make are even through the league is like a Kobe Bryant, because he have gone somewhere else and done it special. Maybe not. The setup he had there in LA, I think, was fitting and helped him develop into the player he eventually became. I think there's a lot of different examples sort of like that.
There's definitely a lot of things where it's like, oh, if that guy had showed up 1 or 2 years off of like when they did and like had different teammates to start their career, that could have affected things completely differently. You know, all sorts of things. That list of, you know, all-time greats that you name sort of had that benefit of bringing, like, their level of play was so good that it brought, like, that was part of the environment being better, was having leadership quality to a point that it makes the people around them better. Like, and whether it's the, you know, in like the Nikola Jokic, Peyton Manning level of like, I literally know the game X's and O's to a level that I can teach you guys on the fly what to look for, and it makes you better in that moment, to the, Nathan McKinnon style of like, I am setting the level of expectation for what we do on this team, and I won't ask it of you if I'm not expected to do it as well, and I'm doing it, so I expect you all to do it too. Yeah,
it's so hard for me to think about like worst trades or best trade. Like there's such thing as
so
a best
many
trades,
variables,
but like a worst trade is really hard to say, especially when it's a commodity that is an unknown commodity, like a Donovan Mitchell out of a draft, or a player who hasn't quite yet strived yet, like a Baker Mayfield, a Sam Darnold, a Daniel Jones type of guy.
Because those are the ones where it's like easy to look back in retrospect with like 10 years of, you know, history, be like, oh, well, that guy who turned into a star you gave him away for peanuts. What were you thinking? It's like, well, at the time, he wasn't worth much more than the peanuts, and it felt like we were getting a pretty straight deal.
Yeah, I think that is true. It's hard to look back, especially with 2020 vision, now that we know who people are and decisions were made, good and bad, for parts.
Because this was a thing that I love watching back when Steve Dangle was on the Sports Network on Canada, the officially licensed one where he got to use the NHL footage, and they would do trade trees and break down the history of like these big historic trades in the NHL and how that has affected the entire franchise, like where all those picks went, who did the trades get traded to, and all that sort of thing. And it's very interesting to see how a move back in the mid-'90s affects you all the way through 15 years later. And there's, I think, still going out of the Wayne Gretzky trade tree are still like, we're still actively cataloging it.
The man has a mark on the sport like no other.
Yeah, it's wild. But in that same vein, yeah, like Joe Sakic is kind of up there for some all-time great trades in hockey history. You could look at the Colorado Rockies pretty easily for some bad trades.
I don't know. I don't even remember the last time the Colorado Rockies did a trade.
Yeah, we're not huge on them.
Was the last one Nolan?
That was one of them for sure. It was one of the bigger ones. Like, we've done a lot of minor ones where it's guys you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, minor league. Yeah, we don't care about that.
And yeah, but I mean, paying another team $5 million to take one of your Hall of Fame players, not a great look.
Yeah, I don't know if, like, trying to drive us back to the question at hand, but I don't know if there is such a thing as a bad trade. I think there's good trades, but it's hard to tell what a bad trade is.
Yeah, you definitely like, and again, it's dependent on how much time you are away from the trade. Certainly in like the same season, very difficult to tell who's winning a trade. Like right now, it feels like, you know, for the Nuggets, we feel like it's a kind of a win-win on the Michael Porter Jr. trade. But maybe, you know, something wild happens 2 years from now and one of us looks like, never mind.
Yeah, a lot of people have Brooklyn winning the Michael Porter Jr. trade because it's like, look at what he's doing. It's like, well, yeah, but he's also like option 1, 1A, 1B, and potentially 2A and 2B out there in Brooklyn, where here he is option 3A, B, maybe, depending on who's
some
out
nights
there.
4C.
Yeah, depending on what he's doing and how he's performing. Also, the team out there, your win success is not super great. I think that needs to be considered inside of the trade versus just single player performance.
Yeah.
Like the other thoughts that I just heard earlier this week that I didn't even think of is like Cam Johnson is not playing to the level that we have expected him to quite yet, at least consistently. But if he maybe doesn't work out for us, right, he's on a 1-year contract. And what does that mean? We give the money to Peyton Watson, and look, it all works out.
Yep. That is the other potential I've heard as well, that one of the guys who's on the team now probably will be getting moved at some point to, make a little room for the youth. Because, the breakout Peyton Watson has had in this opportunity is just sort of like unignorable, and if we don't lock him down sooner than later, he's definitely going to get the bag somewhere.
Man won Player of the Month of December.
That's wild. The Player of the Week was impressive enough and like exceeding expectations. Player of the Month, whoo boy.
Yeah, he's been playing extremely well.
And like the thing that I keep seeing in all the videos, because as we've covered, I get all the Pro Nuggets ones, is how this is all like the offensive game is incredible, and you don't even mention the defensive value he brings. Yeah,
our defensive rating since some people have left, have drastically increased. We are a top 10 defensive team in the NBA, which has never been in the breath of the Nuggets for a long time.
Yeah, it's been not in the Jokic era have we been considered like a top defensive team that I can think of.
No, I think the last time it would have been is to bring back our darker days when we went up against Steph and Clayton before they got Andre Iguodala, who they beat on our team with Danilo and Kenneth Faried and a bunch of other sort of defensive stoppers. But that would have been many, many moons ago, darker days. Any other sports news you want to talk about before we exit this realm here?
I did not have any other sports notes this week.
Very, very good. We'll step into the realm of media, TV, music, whatever else you would like to talk about here. Of course, we've been discussing Netflix and who's going to buy that HBO. Paramount did their damnedest with, I don't know how many Wile E. Coyote type of schemes to try to take it away, but all signs really do point to like this thing is sort of a done deal. We're all set.
On the business side of things, the companies are in agreement. WB will be accepting the bid of Netflix. We still have some of those congressional hurdles to clear and whatnot throughout the rest of the year, but yeah, it definitely looks like we're moving in that direction.
Very much so. On the sort of same vein of that topic, especially if we're going to branch off of what we did last week, which we talked about, we did a cool little bracket of all the great Cartoon Network shows and talked a little bit about some of the other great things that they have to offer. But I thought this week maybe we'd talk a little bit about animation domination. Why is because your generation and my generation, all those younger, they sure do like them some animated movies and TVs. In fact, such so that I think it's like 1 in 5 Americans today is watching animation at least regularly once a week. And on top of that, that just might be anime, in fact.
You are very welcome, rest of the world. Me and my fellow millennials demanded the cartoons keep coming well past the age of 9, and look where we are now, a golden age.
Yeah, I mean, as we keep going through TV and seeing the shows that come on, a lot more adult animation has been presented. When I'm looking at just the advertisements, and I don't see very many of them, a lot of them tend to be for more animated shows, which is also might be just directly from my algorithm.
There's a little bit of that bias going on in there for sure.
Sure. But at least every network has some sort of animation along with them.
There's definitely been a big investment in animation versus, the 1990s where it was Nickelodeon and then Cartoon Network, and the edgiest thing on TV was Beavis and Butthead on MTV. But you got to give a little credit to the MTV studios on pushing that adult animation envelope, because they were the ones to take Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead and get him his reps on making a show so that he could go do King of the Hill after that. You had Daria, which, again, for a certain generation, that's a all-timer and a classic of animation and like high school experience. The Claymation classic off of MTV, Celebrity Deathmatch.
Everyone loves a Celebrity Deathmatch.
A show that oh man, that's good nostalgia right there. The Claymation, the fun pop culture matchups. Jack Black versus Jack White will forever be one of my favorite bits of theirs.
Yes, of course. And I think one of the names which you did not mention that kind of paved the way for animation as just a common sort of let's get together and have the whole family sit is The Simpsons, of course.
Well, I mean, timeline-wise, from 88 or 89, I think, is when the Simpsons premiere on the Tracy Ullman Show. Kind of controversial at the beginning of should the whole, I mean, like Ronald Reagan had the whole thing, or I think it was Miss Nancy Reagan talked smack about The Simpsons. It was a
little bit of your first sort of like, this is an animation, but also this is a little bit leaning towards more the adult side, but the kids aren't going to get the jokes.
But yes, because the Tracy Ullman Show was a variety show where it was like skits and whatnot, and one of the bits for like that debut was the animated bit. It's like Bart in the bathtub is one of the original ones, and Homer's trying to give Bart a bath. Classic animation history, but yes, that does evolve into its own standalone show. By the mid-90s, The Simpsons are a household name and have kind of set the way for pretty certain it was like Rocky and Bullwinkle whose longest-running animation record they broke pretty quickly in the run, and now they are continually setting the bar at, what are we on, season 36 now?
However you are, +1, I think, is what the math is, or something.
It can't
like
be season 38.
I think it might be season 38. It's 37 or 38.
37. Started on September 20. Okay, so once the new season debuts in the fall, that'll be season 38.
Correct.
Ay, caramba.
But of course, that led the way for your Family Guys, your American Dads, and all the other adult animations as we see them today.
Seth MacFarlane to step up into the limelight and kind of help fill out a full Fox evening of animation programming.
A little bit.
But then you have because there's the big burst on the mainstream as well, and then you have got Adult Swim in the background.
I was about to say the one in the studio that I find a little bit interesting is Adult Swim, because it's in the name. It was very much Adult Swim back in the day, but also not a whole lot of adults were watching cartoons, and it was still sort of your audience that was taking in these
They were
shows.
Definitely talking like to the teenagers to try and maybe like, here's your adult content cartoons, and then it's like home movies and Aqua Teen Hunger Force and things like that, which are not like in the realm of animation for quote unquote adults. I would rank those relatively low in terms of like quality. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is fine and fun and all, but like compared to it's not fair to say Primal with Jendy Tartakovsky work in there and all. But even
what do you mean you can compare this to?
Not even in the same realm of that's like fast food versus fine dining differences in quality there.
Yes,
sometimes you're in the mood for different things.
This one is deconstructed. There are no words.
Basically. But the notion that they were like, okay, because they already had kind of demoed that idea with Toonami, which was also a big boost of Japanese animation and a lot of people's introduction to anime in the 90s. The very mainstream way to get introduced to the 90s. The real weebs knew about Sailor Moon before it hit Toonami.
None of those are here in the room.
No, they are not.
They sit outside the room, in fact.
Yes, those of us here in the room were raised on that week-by-week drip of Dragon Ball Z and Tenchi Muyo and Gundam Wing that are all now celebrating their 30th anniversaries, making me feel nice and young.
Woo!
But for sure, I will, for my generation, take all of the credit for continuing to pressure studios and reward them for ever more experimental animation, to the point where, because like a Rick and Morty could not have existed 10 years earlier.
Well, I'm curious as we continue to go along, right? I am seeing, and at least my consumption is less and less on the live action sort of. I watch very, very few of those, and what I do are more out there, sort of the sci-fi stuff and whatnot, but that's very select. I take in a lot of animation and anime and things of that nature, and I know I'm not alone, especially at my age group, and there's like a little jump from you to me, and then the people who are a little bit younger than me take in even more than I do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because again, what a well of quality options out there for these youngsters out nowadays, and still kind of keeps churning out there. Again, with the now kind of narrowing channels on the major studios getting things out, there have been more and more internet things. A separate, like, even category of, we talk about like broadcast level animation shows and whatnot. There's been a whole explosion of the ecosystem of online animation and creators of like little niche projects that will hit for the, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of these people who watch them, but in a pool of billions of internet users, there's so many different little silos you can fall into of, did you watch Homestar Runner or Teen Girl Squad back in the day, or Group X, or oh god, what was the one I used to watch?
Well, it's like all the Fredimation stuff.
Blender Frog, I think, was one. Way back. That was back when it was Flash animation, and it was loaded on the web page. The dark days.
Yes, of dial-up and whatnot. And today, of course, you have still some of that stuff going on YouTube, your Big Top Burgers and whatnot. What are your favorites?
Yep, all the Worthy Kids products, Big Top Burgers, Captain Yajima, all those good things. Louis Zong and his little animations that come out. He pitched a show for Cartoon Network, I want to say, because he'd worked on We Bare Bears and all that too. But so yeah, he's got a bunch of little indie things and all sorts of Kickstarters and Patreons, and even like in the Dropout universe, you get a bunch of people doing fan animations of the bits from the show, and then you go follow them and see what other stuff they're working on, and then you find out, oh, hey, this cool person who liked the fun stuff I liked is also doing this other cool project that I like. So now I'm following them.
I am curious as we go along, right? So as we know, Disney owns a large majority of the television space, and we know how committed they are to animation, so much so that in fact they've even discussed going back to hand-drawn animation for some of their movies, which I think is...
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, agree there. And then, of course, Netflix, they have dipped their toes in a little bit, and they're starting to commit a little bit more and more nowadays as they bring in a lot more anime for their network streaming service, along with some of the original stuff that has been really good, Blue Eye Samurai, which we've talked about on here before, and a few others. But can we, and do you see in the future maybe not as much live action stuff, and as we go forward, more and more animation coming on? And of course there's a lot to think about there, because animation, we know, is more expensive, at least from a production standpoint, but when it comes down to like an animation, you're just paying voice actors, which I think is probably much cheaper than paying an actor to do the job.
The cost depends on who you're hiring to do the voice acting and whatnot. Some companies still do the more famous a person is, that makes them a better voice actor strategy. That's a more common thing in the movie space than for series, though. The bigger thing on the production side with animation is just like the timeline of things. Like, part of the reason a K-pop Demon Hunters sequel is going to take 4 years is
someone's got to animate this thing.
You got to come up with it, draw it, animate it, render it. A lot of people who are not familiar with the actual production things, you can make everything you want in the computer, but then when you tell the computer to spit it out in a format that you can share with other people and they can put on their big screens, that process can take quite a long time, sometimes 3 to 4 times the amount of time it took you to actually make it. And for a feature film, that really adds up, because you definitely make more content than what ends up like, you need extra footage so you can edit it down into a final like you would with a film project. So the timeline thing is kind of the biggest Achilles heel to animation in terms of a level of like cultural responsiveness. Like, I'll be very interested to see how the fans of K-pop Demon Hunters from this year, if 4 years from now they are still in the same place, like, and still as hungry for that sequel, or if they're going to have to try and kind of regain everyone back. Yeah,
it does take a little bit. There was an interview, because, of course, the new SpongeBob movie's coming out for all the youths, and we've been through already 3 of them. I had to discuss that with some of my high schoolers who are too young to remember, not even born yet when the first one came out.
Boy, oh boy, it makes me feel old for remembering the debut episode of SpongeBob.
It was Tom Kenny sitting down with Mark Hamill and Bill Fagerbaker.
The voice of Patrick.
Yeah. They were sitting down talking about doing the voice acting, and how they'll sit there with their kids or their grandkids and be like, hey, that's your voice. And it'd be like, no, it's not. And they'd be like, have to go look at the IMDb, because they did it so long ago that they don't even remember or what they were even doing a voice for.
Yeah, well, especially with those 3 guys in particular who have been in the game a long time now. Yeah, I can imagine that's like 3 legends in the game being like, oh yeah, my list of accomplishments is long and hard to remember.
Yeah, speaking of like giving people their flowers, is there anyone who at their level is as good as Mark Hamill? The guy is a superstar icon actor already as Luke Skywalker, which you don't really need to do much more there, but the voice of probably some of your favorite and all-time favorite characters to ever grace an animation screen. Probably one of the few to ever do a little bit of both, or be an icon in both scenes.
Yeah, I would actually argue that Mark Hamill's voice acting career is much better than his screen acting career.
No argument there, because why else would you go out for anything when you've done Star Wars already?
Yeah, I mean, well, that kind of, Him and Carrie Fisher are about the only two people who made that stick, where they're like, yeah, I did Star Wars and I'm kind of done now.
Harrison Ford is iconic, just an iconic actor for all the things he's done. Who else can say they're Han Solo and I'm Indiana Jones and I'm insert character here and here?
He was
and
the
here.
president in, what was the plane one? Air Force One?
He's been a lot of presidents, I think.
Air Force One was the movie from the Saving Sakic documentary that the Avs ownership group was also financing and needed to do really well so that they could afford to match the offer sheet that the Rangers were giving Joe Sakic. That's how I remember that one.
Hey, it's a good little history nod.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Mark Hamill's voice acting career, because he basically said, like, after doing the 3 Star Wars movies where he was like, I'm not really interested in doing more of that in terms of acting. He actually went to Broadway first for a little bit and then got into voice acting in the early 90s, and that was when we got the voice of the Joker on the Batman animated series, and the rest is history, basically. From that iconic Joker voice to he's found a much deeper sort of library of vocal performance now outside of just that one voice that, yeah, does put him up there with some of the all-time. Tom Kenny, though, I would say of that trio is the king of that roost.
I don't like Tom Kenny has done a lot of very good characters.
Tom Kenny was a legend before he even touched SpongeBob, and now he's also got SpongeBob.
Because if I remember correctly, he was part of the sort of that OG Cartoon Network crew before he switched over to being sort of the Nickelodeon babyface, if you will.
Yeah, it's a long, like I say, he's been in the game a long time, because not only is he SpongeBob, he's also filled in as like side voices on basically every other animation project that's been out there.
Which is why he has a hard time remembering what he's done a voice for.
Yeah, you can kind of name anything and it's probably correct. Am I just old as dirt and SpongeBob is really one of the first things he did?
He's done some like littler things, like he's done like you said, little voices. I know he was part of the sort of the OG Cartoon Network crew with like the Two Stupid Dogs and that sort of animation, Cow and Chicken, those kind of guys.
Okay, this IMDb page is a little wacky. He was also credited on like some of the later Looney Tunes. Yeah, the Powerpuff Girls. He was involved with early on, and that was pre-SpongeBob as well. But yeah, just icons. Who's the other one? Clancy Brown, thank you.
Clancy Brown is up there. Who's my favorite one? Keith David. That's my favorite guy.
Oh, yeah.
Keith David is another one who's
also in everything, but that is just the one voice he does for everyone.
A little bit, but he is.
But when it's that good, you
don't need to change it. He's also one that's graced the silver screen and your small televisions and some iconic roles for some of you that watch different types of media.
And he's also prolific in the video game space as well.
I mean, I'd say all those,
several different franchises have a classic Keith David character voice.
Yeah, it's almost required to have a classic franchise, if you will.
It's up there for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also one of my favorite characters of all time, Goliath of Gargoyles, which I think is probably by far one of the most underrated animations ever.
Admiral Anderson.
He is Admiral Anderson. He does hurt me.
In the Mass Effect universe. Amongst others.
Many, many others.
So many others.
Any other thing you want to talk about while we are still out here throwing out roses to our favorite voice actors and animation people?
I do have another media topic, slightly off topic here, but it is a callback to some coverage we've done on the show before. The TikTok account of Mr. Matt Taylor, the art teacher, who I liken to a modern-day Mr. Rogers, unfortunately was an advertisement all along.
Of course it was.
Yeah. It is, in fact, a build-up to Kevin James' new movie, which I have looked at a bunch and I've already forgotten the name of.
Produced by Happy Madison Studios?
That's a good question. The film is called Solo Mio. And the entire romance little subplot that they developed in the art teacher's TikTok culminated in him asking his girlfriend to marry him. And that is, I think, the last TikTok on the account currently, and is the build-up to Solo Mio, which the tagline for is, "Left at the altar in Rome, a heartbroken man chooses to go on his honeymoon alone. As he navigates the city meant for two, he begins a bittersweet journey of self-discovery." That's coming out on February 6th, and if you followed the TikTok, you'll have to go see it and see how much of that is actually involved in the film, and maybe we get a payout as extras.
The film is just all the clips cut together.
That'd be kind of wild.
Got him.
Yeah. Does not appear.
It doesn't feel like a Happy Madison.
This is not a Happy Madison.
Too sad.
Really. Distribution by Angel Studios. And Angel Studios, if you couldn't tell by their name, a little bit of a religious bent in their company.
No, never.
Yeah, just a little. But yeah, so color me cynical. The little bit of joy I found from Kevin James on TikTok was all just selling me another product.
A religious movie.
Yeah, a movie with religious undertones. I guess that's why they set it in Rome. Get a little sneaky Catholicism. Is Kevin James going to go hard Catholic on us?
No, he's not.
Okay.
I don't think he would.
Very good then. Yeah, that was my only other note for this week.
Very good. With that being said, I don't think I have anything else to cover. Why don't you wrap us up?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you once again for sticking with us for an episode of 321 Presents. I have been your Mic 2, Nick, and with me, of course, on Mic 1 is Zach. We would love if you could leave us a little comment. Tell us about, what did we talk about this week? Favorite voice actors, the animation domination generation here. And, if you've got some takes on sports, let us know, and we'll cover all that on the next episode. Yes, follow 5-star review or 5-star rating on the Spotifys, on the Apple Podcasts, like and subscribes. You can find us on the Spotify, on the Apple, on YouTube and TikTok at 321pods. And all of the information can be found at the website 321pods.com. Also, a little shout out if you listened last week to our preview of the new podcast project coming out later this year, 26 for 26. That is also got its own little Spotify page that you can go follow right now if you want to make sure you're ready for the debut of episode 1 on February 1st. So I think that's everything.
I do believe so. We will see you guys next week for what other fun and wacky and new stories that we have to cover. And adios.
Hopefully a Broncos win.
And a Broncos win. Better be a Broncos win out there.
Okay, now adios.
Adios.